George R.R. Martin is the textbook example that you don't need to be too young to experience the too much and too fast phenomenon. Like, the guy toiled at being a B-tier science fiction writer for a vast majority of his career, ended up picking up substantial traction when he was, systematically releasing the early parts of A Song in Ice and Fire, achieved a worldwide name recognition, household name recognition. In fact, once, Game of Thrones became the worldwide sensation that it was, and then now his legacy is the guy who is never going to finish the books. But why would he? Why would he? He's incentivized to continue to just mess around, to just stick his fingers in many other incestuous pies that he will just go ahead and write about at length on both accounts, because Warner Brothers and HBO just continues to commission new shows based on his properties. He's the guy who everybody is saying, later in life, after years and years at applying his craft, getting to a level that he's achieved, and I'm not going to take anything away from his talent. I think he's exceptionally good at what he does. He's just also that guy that he's been told yes for so long at this point. All of his crazy notions and excuses have been reaffirmed time and time again by just every one of his sycophantic yes men that he doesn't understand. That he is not the god that everybody in his orbit worships. Because a little bit of a spoiler for a video that I think I have coming out this weekend. It's in regards to House of the Dragon Season 2, so this ties in quite nicely. George.R.R. Martin, I don't look forward to revealing everything that's gone wrong with House of the Dragon, but I need to do that soon. I also need to finish the book soon, but hey, some things like the second coming of Christ are also needing to happen soon. But in regards to House of the Dragon Season 2, it was quite good. Step down from Season 1. I'm not spoiling too much, but there was also some things that were outside of the controls of the showrunners that made Season 2 a bit of a head-scratcher and quite divisive online. But take it from the guy who, would just mail in his input. Guy who was too busy consulting on storylines for video games or floating pilots for new projects to focus in on the one show that is actually continuing to maintain your relevance. Game of Thrones creator and author George.R.R. Martin. At this point in time, he's kind of a Hollywood producer at this point in time. I don't really think that author is fair, because we just passed the 13-year anniversary, July 1st, of his last mainline installment of A Song of Ice and Fire. Like, is he really an author? Written some coffee table books. But anyways, he has revealed in a new blog post that he'll soon write about everything that's gone wrong with the HBO spin-off series House of the Dragon, which finished airing its second season earlier this month. Martin used his personal blog over the years to whine and bitch and complain about everything from the New York Jets to how the Orange Man is really bad. Everything except for to give updates on the Winds of Winter. Anyways, I do not look forward to other posts. I need to write everything about everything that's gone wrong with House of the Dragon, but I need to do that too, and I will. Sure, we don't trust you at all, George. Not today, though. Today is Zozo Bra's day. I beg your pardon. When we turn away from gloom. Yeah, he's talking about, another festival that he's out there promoting for unknown reasons. I don't know. Maybe he has some stake in that stuff, because he would give you updates on, the Winds of Winter, the long-delayed book, okay? It's just long-delayed. He's still working on it, right? Like, that the last update that we got on Winds of Winter was last year he lost 100 pages. It was editing, I think, or something like that. But now this year, the big update heading towards the end of the year, because, let's be completely honest, is he going to give another update before the end of the year on Winds of Winter? Not when he's got pathetic excuses like saying that the Winds of Winter has been delayed because of fascism. You're an idiot. You will forever be Tolkien's bitch. You were inspired to write A Song of Ice and Fire because you wanted to know, what was Aragorn's reign like? What was his tax policies afterwards? Did he ever want to bang one of his daughters? God damn it, man. Like, you see idiotic stuff like this, and we'll get into the actual quote because it's just as dumb as the headline implies, but it's delayed because of fascism. Okay, cool. The guy that you're going to forever be in the shadow of, yeah, he wrote his seminal works during the actual rise of fascism. Okay, The Lord of the Rings, okay, Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King were written in parts during World War II. You're mad because of a skirmish, a protracted skirmish out there in Eastern Europe and the perpetual violence in the Middle East? Is that what you're concerned about? Oh, or is this just another excuse to blame the Orange Man for everything? Unbelievable. In a recent post on his personal blog, J.R.R. Martin had an interesting explanation as to why he hasn't been more productive as fans continue to wait for the novel The Winds of Winter to be completed. It's not going to, okay? I held out 80% chance that he releases this, but at this point in time, it's got to be less than 50 if he continues to make excuses like this. That theory that, he's seen the reaction to what was a lot of his plot points, theoretically, what we've seen during season 8 of Game of Thrones, that's very likely where a lot of the characters, at least the ones that were introduced in the show, are ultimately going to end up. And because of the atrocious writing by Dumb and Dumber, people hate season 8. But George also knows that, at the end of it, Bran's probably going to sit the throne. Dany's probably going to lose a dragon or two. He's probably going to snap. Now, is she going to lawnmower King's Landing? I highly doubt that. Or at least if she does, it's going to be set up a lot better because there's a little character called Young Griff that's out there who's going to facilitate those changes in a natural and, well set up and developed way. He's scared to write down anything that the public would have already theoretically seen, have those terrible connections made, and end up sullying his legacy. So instead of being the guy that poorly finished the books, he would rather be the guy that never finished the books. This has not been a good year for anyone. Didn't we go through this shit either at the beginning of the year or at the end of last year? He was belly aching and bitching about something. I thought that was it might have been February of this year too. Oh, this wasn't a good year because Russia-Ukraine stuff. It's like, oh, I beg your pardon? What are you talking about? With war everywhere and fascism on the rise. Cite your sources, you fat cuck. And on a more personal level, I've had a pretty wretched year as well. Oh yeah. Lost some weight. I would imagine it'd be considerably less wretched. He's starting to sound... Is this J.R.R. Martin or is this George 2988 coming at you live through the power of the Nutta blog? Piss off. One full of stress, anger, conflict, and defeat. I look forward to telling you all about our adventures through, though it may take a while. Yeah, everything regarding you takes a while. If you can't get into a hover round, of course it's going to take a while. And I had 1,000 emails waiting for me on my return from Belfast, Amsterdam, London, Oxford, Glasgow. Yeah, listing off different places that isn't your writing cottage, the same place that you didn't go to, when the world was locked down, or maybe last year that was just so difficult on you, when you couldn't work on one of your 8 different TV shows because there was this little thing called the fucking writer's strike, you fat bastard. Jesus. Meanwhile, Tolkien wrote The Hobbit and yes, The Lord of the Rings and all the backstories while 2 world wars were going on. Yeah, exactly. He's inspired by, the fact that he fought during World War I. He fought against fascists, or at least proto-fascists, the precursor, the mustache man in Germany, okay? That's what Tolkien did. You're just a fat hack who gets a stiffy every time he thinks about going to a family reunion. But yes, and I brought a case of the coof back with me from Worldcon, so I am way, way behind. So these are all things that happened relatively recently, and then that doesn't explain your lethargic behavior in the previous 13 years. Martin reportedly started on the book back in 2010. No, he didn't, but has been delayed several times, leading Martin to avoid setting a release date. Yes, he said October 2022, that he had finished about 3/4 of the book with 1,100 to 1,200 pages written and 400 to 500 still left to go. Similar update in November of 2023 was that he was still struggling to complete it. Exactly, giving credence to the theory that, he knows how to end it, he just doesn't want to end it because he doesn't want to have his feelings hurt because he's a really emotional guy. To confess, after half a year of pandemic, quarantine, and social distancing, you're an author. Write words. How much social interaction do you need on that one? Claim to be a gardener when you're writing. You just let your characters go wherever they want. You're just out there pruning and trimming to make sure that plot stuff happens. How much of a drum circle, a yes man drum circle, do you need in order to put pen to paper on that? I am showing signs of cabin fever, half of which is quite literal in my case. Yes, I am in an actual cabin in the mountains. No, you weren't. No, I have no fever. Yay, for the present at least. I am healthy. I'm an out-of-shape guy of 71. Yeah, that was written back in 2020. So this is a 75-year-old fat hack with more excuses than words written in the past 13 years. He's never going to finish the book because he doesn't want any of the backlash. Because at this point point in time, it could never live up to expectations. Me personally, shit that I'm looking forward to into the future, yeah, I would like to see where the story eventually goes in regards to A Song of Ice and Fire. You know, A Dream of Spring is very much going to stay a dream. This just all but confirms that. But yeah, even if it's the greatest book ever written, it's not 13 years wait greatest book ever written. That's the promise that you've implicitly implied due to your multiple delays, your multiple excuses. Meanwhile, you have over, the stuff that I'm looking forward to, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3. I'm going to say that it's going to be reclaimed because that kind of makes sense to me for reasons that I'll explain in another dedicated video at a later date. Don't worry about it. I'll actually get around to that, unlike this fat bastard. But the director of that game series, Naoki Hamaguchi, came out and said, we have lofty expectations. Okay, what we're cooking some shit that is going to be absolutely mind-blowing, and I promise you, this is going to be one of the greatest video game experiences of a lifetime. And after playing through, and now I'm just starting my full replay from scratch the second time around, yeah, Rebirth is one of my favorite, could end up being my favorite game ever released. So I have a lot of faith because they have a team, they're ready to go, the scenario's written, they're getting ready to record lines in about 2 to 3 years, hopefully shorter than that, because they seem to have all the mechanics, they got the world, they basically have a plan that's out there. Because they know that there's people that are out there anticipating the end of that story. They're anticipating building on the work that they've already laid, the foundation that they promised all the way back in 2013, even though Sony and Square Enix jumped the gun in announcing that project, and it being 7 years from concept until release of the first part, they did a whole make good on that. Meanwhile, George, yeah, he's still complaining about wars that have nothing to do with him in places so far away, he would have to rip off H.P. Lovecraft to describe what they're actually like. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.